Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 3 of Motherhood Making, and today I'm going to be continuing our conversation on the Heirloom Sewing Series. Today's episode is called What Makes Clothing Heirloom Quality? Hi there, I'm Whitney, and you're listening to Needles of Motherhood and Making. I'm a professional seamstress, embroiderer, and recently I've added long arm quilting to my needles arsenal. Most importantly, I'm a wife and a mother to 3 amazing little humans. This podcast lives at the intersection of motherhood and making. Today, I want to undo a misconception. When people hear heirloom, they often picture something delicate, expensive, and maybe even impractical, something that is old and from way back when. Oh, my grandmother, my great-grandmother has heirloom clothes, but we don't have heirloom clothes today. And let me tell you, heirloom quality isn't about being fragile. No, my friends, it is about being faithful to wear, faithful to time, and faithful to the person wearing the clothing, whether it's you or your children. Heirloom quality doesn't start with lace and hand embroidery, and in my case, machine embroidery. Thank you, Emma, which is my 100-pound, 10-needle Brother Home embroidery machine that sits up on a stand and has a space all her own. So if it doesn't start with all that, where does it start? Well, heirloom quality starts where you can't even see it, and often it goes unnoticed by others too. Heirloom quality starts with seam structure, proper stitch length, tension, and reinforcement at stress points. A garment meant to last must be able to be worn hard, washed often, and passed down. It is strength that comes first and beauty second. I'm embarrassed to admit, but I'll say it here because this is a trusted space and I'm the one doing the podcast. So when I first started sewing, I had to buy cheaper fabric. I had mentioned in my last episode that I did not give any mind to the fabric fiber content when I was first starting out. And at the time, polyester fabric or really thin cotton fabric was all that I could afford, which was good for a little while, but I soon learned that the clothes and bedding and decor that I was making for my children, or my oldest, it wasn't lasting any longer than my oldest's toddlerhood. And some of the clothes that I made for her could only be worn by her instead of being passed down to my second-born daughter. As a mother who loves to sew clothes for my children, and as someone who loves heirloom, I knew that there had to be something more. As I started sewing more regularly and I was building my clientele, I started offering custom baby clothing, nursery decor, and bedding with high quality. I wanted to offer that because I wanted my customers to be able to have the option to store their handmade baby garments in a keepsake box, display it in a shadow box on their baby's shelf, and one day be able to pass it on to their grandchildren. That type of quality doesn't just happen. It has to be planned for. Planning for quality meant that I had to until I could afford the higher quality fabrics and the supplies. Planning for quality meant that I waited until I could afford higher quality fabric. So I didn't just start sewing for the public immediately upon getting my sewing machine, which was a gift from my mother-in-law, but I actually mastered some skills prior to that. Sewing for my daughter, I believe that she was about 1, maybe 2 when I really started sewing clothes for customers and offering custom clothing. I loved doing it. I loved sewing. I loved making things that I could see my daughter twirl in, and the shorts and the little open back blouses and all the things. And so I started offering that to customers. I also had learned during this time of sewing for my daughter that I was not going to be able to pick the least expensive fabric for customers because I wanted them to last. So I had to raise my prices. And let me tell you, that is really hard when you haven't really been taught how to price things and you're trying to figure it out. It's hard. It really is. So fabric is constantly going up. And just because I bought the fabric doesn't mean that it improved over time. I had to be really picky with the type of fabric that I was selecting for my customers, for my children. And heirloom fabric is supposed to soften without thinning. It fades gently, not unevenly, and it holds structure even after many washes and repairs. Because let's be honest, all children that wear their clothes as intended will wear holes in them eventually. And the best children, like the most prim and proper, my children want to get outside. They want to swing and jump and twirl. And I'm all about it. They want to go and walk on rocks and hop from place to place. Children should live like that. They should be allowed to be children. But I want my kids to look really cute when they do it. It's okay that my kids put holes in their clothes. Now, do I want them to? Absolutely not. I do want them to be careful with some of their clothes, especially church clothes. But I think it gives our children an opportunity to see us mend something, and that mending clothes is a part of the process. It gives character to the clothing, and it teaches our children that something worth our time and energy to make is also worth our time and energy to mend. And it is choosing intention, and is choosing to mend and to be patient with our children as we are mending these clothes over fast fashion. With that being said, knowing that we are going to have to offer mending to our children's clothes or even to our own personal clothes, I want to be able to select something that may be a little bit heavier, especially if my children are running and jumping. I want to be able to feel the quality when I pick it up off the shelf. I want to be able to feel the thickness. I don't want to be able to feel my finger straight through the fabric when I pick it up, or be able to see my hand through the fabric. With my middle child, she's 8 now, and she's still all about dresses. When I started sewing dresses, or being able to hand down a few of my oldest dresses, I would notice that when she would go out in the sunlight, that I could see like the little silhouette of her legs in the sunlight. And I didn't like that. My middle daughter loves to be in dresses. She would swim in a dress if I would let her. And with her dresses, I have to be really intentional about the fabric that I pick out to make sure that the sunlight cannot, outline her little silhouette. And I also know that she is going to be the one climbing the trees. She's going to be the one jumping out of the trees, getting into mud. So it needs to be able to wash, needs to be able to wear, and to hold up to all her movement. Knowing your children is going to help you so much in picking out fabric for your next project. And I'll say this, when you're preparing for your next project, choose fabric that has high natural fiber content, because they breathe. They move as one with your child. It responds to the person wearing it instead of fighting against the person. So what I mean by that is, with my daughter doing all her twirls, she is big into the twirl factor. She wants that twirl. But my son, he needs something a little bit more hardy, a little bit more practical. He doesn't need a flowy cotton. He needs something like twill. He needs something like corduroy, something that is a little bit heavier duty. And plastic fibers, my friends, they age so loudly. Natural fibers, they age quietly, gracefully. They wear well, and your children will respond to that too, because they know how their body responds to energy, and they can feel it. The plastic content, like rayon and polyesters, they just seem to suck the life out of our children. So we are going for natural fibers. Heirloom aging, my friends, is quiet. And it happens over a long period of time because our children, and even maybe you, if you have a garment that you have made recently, you continue to go back to it over and over and over again. Heirloom clothing anticipates change. Children grow, their bodies shift, life happens. When making a garment with your intention of making it heirloom quality, give yourself generous seam allowance. Allow the hems to be let down. So maybe instead of doing a little half-inch seam, you're actually planning for 2-inch hem. Or I have seen beautiful dresses that have this little tucked hem inside that when your child grows, that you can let out this little hem and it adds another inch to the dress, up to 3 or even 5 inches, depending on how many of these little tucks you put in. And to the outside passerby, they just see it as a little delicate addition to the dress. But in fact, it has so much function. It's beautiful. These hems in a child's skirt is called growth tucks or even magic hems. And they are these little pleats. Later, it can be unpicked. I highly recommend it. And you can even add a similar method if you already have skirts, but your children still fit it in the bodice part, but they need a little bit extra length. Adding a petticoat or an underskirt, even a ruffle to the bottom of the hem is a perfect way to add length. So always a way to add length. In continuing, the heirloom quality garments, they avoid overly trendy silhouettes. So these are garments that are tried and true over and over again. And they don't have deep plunges. They have a higher neckline. They have simple sleeves. The whole idea is to design with future hands in mind. As someone who loves passing clothing down, I will take my oldest child's clothes and save them for my second daughter. When it's time for my second daughter to wear the clothing, I will bring up pictures of my firstborn wearing the clothes. And I love telling the stories. It's so precious. And my oldest, it just beams whenever she gets to hand down. It's like a rite of passage. Like, oh, now it's your turn and you get to wear it. I get to tell these stories of my oldest. My second daughter is so vastly different than my first that she wears the clothes and she plays so hard in them that sometimes I worry about the clothes coming undone on her. But you know what? The clothes hold strong. They wash and wear very well. And I am really excited that these clothes that I have made, my oldest daughter will be passed on to grandkids. That's how well they are made. We need to go into making clothing sustainable and wearable. Unfortunately, fast fashion avoids repair. Heirloom quality expects it. With fast fashion, it is exactly that. You have a little tear or a run or a stain. Some of that stuff, because it is made out of polyester or plastic fibers, you can't wash it out. You can't wash the stains out. You can't repair the hole. And so it is tossed in the trash. And fast fashion expects you to go back and buy more. However, heirloom clothing expects repair. I said a few minutes into the episode that when we repair our clothing, it teaches our children that the clothing that they are wearing has value and we expect it to last. When you're sewing clothing with the expectation of it being heirloom quality, you are actually planning for fabrics to be mended. You are working in the construction into that garment to be opened and reworked. You're adding extra wide seams. You are adding that flexibility so the clothing can be repaired and be restored and then passed down. worn over and over again. A repair doesn't ruin heirloom. It confirms it. But with something that I love about heirloom clothing is that a repair doesn't ruin an heirloom. It confirms it. I do want to mention that something that you wear doesn't automatically get the label heirloom quality, right? Because you don't get to decide when you're making it if you're making something heirloom. You can have the intention, but guess who really ultimately decides? The person who's wearing it. Your child gets to decide. And your child is the one that chooses their clothing over and over again, and they reach for it without even thinking. It becomes trustworthy. Heirloom quality is revealed in comfort, familiarity, and survival. Heirloom clothing does not always have to have lace trims and embroidery to make it cutesy. It's present. It lives, it wears, and it lasts. And long after it no longer fits, it still belongs, and it belongs in memories. Thank you for being here, for valuing care over speed and longevity over trend. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with another maker or mother. Thank you for joining me at the intersection of motherhood and making. I'm Whitney, and I'll be back next Thursday with another episode. I'm going to further our discussion on heirloom fabrics and choosing fabrics that last. So until next time, keep mothering, keep making, and keep choosing intention over rush.